Hey, what is going on, guys? Thank you for tuning into Rules for Rebels. Today we're going to be talking about Segwit2X and how Bitcoin is having a hard fork 2 days from now. We're going to be talking about if you want to sell your futures, how and where you can do that. And we're also going to be talking about kind of how to prepare for the fork. If you want to make sure you get your Segwit2X fork tokens or coins, we're going to talk about how to get those. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the state of Bitcoin right now. I watched an interesting video last night from Jackson Palmer, the creator of Dogecoin or Doggycoin, and he's a little bit kind of pessimistic about Bitcoin. So we're going to be talking about all of that today. I'm all bundled up here. It's like -1 degrees here in Chicago today, so I'm freezing. Had a hard time getting my dogs to go out this morning. But getting to the fork, so I forget the exact block number, but essentially sometime on December 28th, which today is the 26th, so that's 2 days from now, Bitcoin is going to go through another hard fork. Now, if you remember back to, I can't even keep track of all these forks, but I want to say it was probably late October, early November when Segwit2X was initially supposed to happen. It wound up being called off at the last minute. We saw futures trading at like $1,600 and literally within a snap of a fingers went down to like $200 or $300. And I was just getting ready to sell my futures right before that happened. Right now, futures for Segwit2X, which is scheduled to occur in 2 days, are trading at about $590, give or take a couple bucks. And the reason I kind of looked at that, it gives us a little bit of an idea of what kind of support Segwit2X has. Now, we're going to be talking about if you want to make sure you get your Segwit2X coins, how you're going to go about doing that. But before we get into that, I'm just going to talk briefly about futures. So basically right now, as of today, and it's actually been going on for quite some time, but literally as of today, you can sell your Segwit2X futures even though Segwit2X hasn't happened yet and isn't live yet. Now, there are two exchanges who will let you do that. One is called Yobit. I really don't think that highly of them. It's a very kind of glitchy exchange. I wouldn't necessarily trust putting a ton of money in there. Although, as far as I know, they've never like stolen anybody's money or anything. The second exchange allowing you to sell Segwit2X futures is HitBTC. HitBTC is actually a pretty decent exchange. I mean, I don't like it as much as like a Binance or a Bittrex, but HitBTC is actually a very good, reputable exchange. They've handled selling futures for past forks, and they've always kind of done right by people and handled it well. So, hypothetically speaking, if you think Segwit2X either A, won't happen, B, will be a total flop and won't have a lot of support, or C, if you think Segwit2X, if you think everybody's going to dump their coins and it's going to tank the value, and if you think the price is going to be lower than $590 and it's never going to go above that, what you may want to do is sell your futures on HitBTC and you can get $590. And you would do this if you assume that it's going to be kind of a flop and that as soon as it's released, everybody's going to dump it and it's going to go to like $100. On the other hand, if you believe in Segwit2X and you think it's going to take off, you could actually buy futures. So if you say, okay, I think when Segwit2X goes live or within a month, Segwit2X is going to be trading at $1,000 or more, you could actually buy other people's futures on HitBTC for $590. And, you know, if you think that's going to happen, you're trying to profit off of that. So that's kind of what futures is. That's kind of how they work with selling like futures on upcoming forks. I will link to HitBTC in the description box below if any of you guys have any interest in doing that. But probably more importantly, because I imagine most people aren't going to be trading their futures, most people probably just sit on the coins. What most of you guys are probably wondering about is, hey, how do I make sure that I get my coins? Well, Coinbase, back when Segwit2X was first going to happen, they made some announcements about it. If you check their blog, there's been nothing within the past, month to maybe 5 or 6 weeks them saying anything about it. We also saw kind of how poorly they handled the Bitcoin Cash situation. I mean, in fairness, they told everybody, get your coins off of our exchange. It was only after the fact when people were whining that they decided to give people the coins. Don't plan on getting your Segwit2X coins if you keep your money on Coinbase or GDEX. And even if they do decide to give them to you, it might be 6 months down the road. It might be next year. So if you want to make sure you get your coins and you don't want to be at the whim of Coinbase, what you're going to want to do is either move them into a private wallet where you control the keys, or move them onto an exchange that has said that they'll support Segwit2X or pass out the tokens or whatever else. So if you have a Trezor or a Ledger, this is going to be pretty easy for you. Just move them over to the Trezor or the Ledger, and both of these hardware wallets typically have a system in place where you can claim your coins pretty easily within a few days after the fork. And that's pretty easy. The other alternative is you can send them over to a wallet like Electrum. Now, this is a little bit more complicated for new users. Like back when Bitcoin Cash happened, what you would need to do if you want to collect those coins safely, you would first set up a new Electrum wallet and send your Bitcoin over to that wallet. So you got your Bitcoin out of the original Electrum wallet. What you would do next is go find a wallet or an exchange that supports, actually you would need to find a wallet. Find a wallet that supports Segwit2X. You then use your seed from that first wallet to input it into the Segwit2X wallet. Your Bitcoins are already safely moved over to another Electrum wallet. I always get kind of brain farts when I'm trying to describe this. When you enter your seed into that new Segwit2X wallet, you can safely claim your Segwit2X coins without having your actual Bitcoin vulnerable at all. And then from there, you can send them onto an exchange. Well, probably the easier way of doing things is just prior to the fork, sending your coins over to an exchange that's going to support Segwit2X. So if that's what you're going to do, I would recommend using Binance. Bittrex in the past has been pretty good about splitting coins for people. So has HitBTC. But Bittrex has shut down new user registrations. They're not allowing new people to set up accounts. So anybody new to the space who doesn't already have a Bittrex account will not be able to set one up. But one exchange that has, basically has a statement on their website that says we will support all Bitcoin forks is a newer exchange called Binance. I made a video about Binance the other day. Binance has quickly become one of my favorite exchanges. The fees are less than half of what Bittrex, Poloniex, Kraken, and all the other exchanges are. If you hold the Binance tokens, and I should mention their fee is 0.1%, whereas Bittrex and everyone else is 0.25%. Also, withdrawal fees can really kill you, especially on Bittrex. I've been moving some of my money from Bittrex over to Binance, and the withdrawal fees are definitely killing me. Binance has lower withdrawal fees, and Binance, another cool thing, they actually have their own token, where if you hold your own token, you can use that to pay the fees, and you can get half off of your fees, 50% off of your trading fees. So that could potentially bring the cost per trade down to 0.05%, which would be by far like one of the lowest out there. Anyhow, Binance on their website right at the top has a statement, maybe I'll link to it in the description box below. They have a statement on the website saying that they will support all future forks. So if you move your coins over to Binance today or tomorrow or before the fork, when the fork actually happens, they'll take a snapshot and they'll give you your Segwit2X coins, and you get to keep your original Bitcoins. Now, they haven't said whether they'll actually allow trading of the Segwit2X coin right away. They said if it's safe to do, they will. But worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, they're still going to split your coins for you. And if for some reason they decided not to trade in it, you could send those off to HitBTC or Bittrex or another exchange that will trade the Segwit2X coins, and you can do that. So just to kind of recap all of this, if you want to sell your futures, Yobit or HitBTC, I would probably recommend HitBTC. If you want to make sure you get your coins, make sure they're either in a wallet where you control the keys, or I would suggest moving them over to Binance. Now, one last thing I wanted to talk about is just kind of like where is Bitcoin right now? What is the situation of Bitcoin right now? So I watched a video by Jackson Palmer. He's the creator of Dogecoin, Doggycoin, etc. He makes great videos about Bitcoin, getting into the technical stuff, but explaining it in a way that, stupid tech people like myself and maybe many of you guys can easily understand. So he's been on hiatus for a while. He hasn't made a video in a while. I guess he's been traveling and stuff. He just recently made the first video that he's made in a long time, and he kind of talked about, like, are the prices of Bitcoin right now justified, etc., etc., etc. And he was actually being kind of critical of Bitcoin, and I'm slowly starting to move over that way. I'm kind of kicking myself for not selling at least some of my Bitcoins back when we were at like 19.5 or even 18,000, 17,000. Bitcoin, I hate to be critical of it because I love Bitcoin. I really want to support Bitcoin. I'm not a huge fan of Bitcoin Cash, but the transactions are taking so long and the transaction fees are so high that really we've gotten away from what Bitcoin is really all about, right? Like in the earlier day, I know a lot of people are new to Bitcoin, but in the earlier days of Bitcoin, you could actually use Bitcoin to buy things. You could tip people on Reddit with Bitcoin. It was cheap, it was fast, it was easy to use. And now, and we, you know, a lot of us talked about like, oh, you know, Bitcoin brings banking to people in third world countries that are unbanked. Bitcoin puts a bank in everybody's pocket. Bitcoin removes the need for merchant processors, right? Because you know, we don't need Visa and MasterCard and a parent bank and a merchant processor and a payment gateway. We don't need all of that between the seller and the buyer. You know, you can just send Bitcoin, and the fees and everything have gotten so high that it's made Bitcoin unusable. Like Steam, the video game site, and a lot of other sites are no longer accepting Bitcoin. I think it's was it WikiLeaks or something like that, will only accept donations of $100 or more, because otherwise the fees just eat up all the money. So it's really kind of a sad state for Bitcoin, and I kind of caught myself, like a lot of other people, being like, well, it's a store of value. You know, we can't transact with it, but it's a store of value. And you may have heard me say that before, and that is true. And I'm not saying that there's no value in having a store of value outside of the reach of the IRS or a wife or business, but you know, it is kind of nice having a store of value that nobody can touch. But at the same time, if you read the Bitcoin white paper, what Bitcoin is all about is bringing peer-to-peer transactions and allowing people to buy things and putting a bank in everybody's pocket. And we've really kind of gotten away from that. And so a lot of the selling points of Bitcoin are kind of gone, and a lot of what gives it its value is all those things that we just mentioned. So now that you can't really do that, like where is the value coming from? Like a lot from speculation, and there is some value in having a store of value, but is it worth $20,000 per coin? So what Jackson Palmer was essentially saying is, you know, if Bitcoin isn't going to be a bank in everybody's pocket that allows us to conduct commerce, does it really deserve to have a value of $20,000 or $50,000 or whatever else? And it's kind of funny. I guess when he started Dogecoin or Doggycoin, it was way before the ICOs, and way before most of the ICOs. And it was almost kind of a joke. It was like, let me see if I can create value out of thin air. He used the Bitcoin code, I believe. He found a funny dog meme that he saw online and liked, and created a coin. And he himself was kind of shocked when that coin had like $400 million in value. And so he's kind of saying that like just too much money is being created out of thin air in the cryptocurrency space. And he's gotten kind of critical of Bitcoin. It sounds like he's not a big fan of the Lightning Network, so I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but there's so much to kind of cover. So the Lightning Network is basically a plan to make Bitcoin transactions faster and cheaper. However, and I don't fully understand it, but from the little bit I do understand of it, I'm not a huge fan of it. So basically what two people can do is open up a payment channel. So I recently bought a winter hat from a company called Beardo. Now, if I plan to do business with them on a regular basis, we could open up a payment channel, and I put some Bitcoins in. I forget if they put Bitcoins in or not, but essentially it's almost like a gift card, right? It's almost like buying a gift card to Dunkin' Donuts. And I can use it, and those transactions happen off-chain. And then when one of us wants to close the payment channel, we broadcast the closing of the payment channel to the Bitcoin network, and then we both get the Bitcoins that we put in out of it. Now, not a terrible idea on the face of it, but it seems a little bit more complicated to me that there's kind of like two Bitcoin networks running side by side. And then the other thing about the Lightning Network is I believe it costs a fee to open a payment channel and another fee to close it. So unless I'm doing a lot of business with somebody and unless I'm spending a decent amount of money, it's probably going to be a waste of money to open one of these channels. Now, Jackson Palmer did have one case that actually made sense for the Lightning Network, and it was if exchanges could open payment channels with consumers through the Lightning Network. That's something that people are doing on a regular basis, right? Because Bitcoin, you know, best practices, so to speak, you send your Bitcoins over to an exchange to trade them, and then when you're done, you take them back and you know, hold them in a wallet where you control the keys. So that would be kind of best practices for Bitcoin. However, because fees have gotten so slow and transaction times have gotten because fees have gotten so high and because transaction times have gotten so slow, a lot of people are just like leaving their coins on exchanges. So if exchanges were to open like these payment channels, potentially you could move money back and forth between an exchange and your wallet very cheaply, and that actually would be a good thing. I've also heard that like as Lightning Network gets maybe like more advanced, I guess you could say, that all different people can create payment channels, and you can kind of hop between multiple payment channels. Jackson Palmer kind of talks a little bit about this. He says that can often run very, very slow, and there can be kind of some glitchiness with that, but that is another possibility. I guess the main point I'm getting at here is Bitcoin is no longer really usable as a currency and a payment platform. And that's one of the things that's always been beautiful about Bitcoin, is it was the first thing ever that was two things, both a payment, both a currency and a payment channel, right? And it now no longer has those things. So is it really justified to have these high values that it has? So unless Bitcoin can solve these scaling problems, I'm a little bit less optimistic about Bitcoin hitting like 25 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, etc. Anyhow, I've gotten a little bit off on a completely different tangent, talking about like the future of Bitcoin and is the price justified and all this other stuff. Maybe we'll make a follow-up video talking a little bit more about that. But just to recap, the main thing I wanted to talk about is this upcoming fork. One thing I'll be curious to see, historically speaking, whenever there's talk of a fork or whenever a fork is happening, we see a lot of money rush into Bitcoin because wanting to get their free coins or their free money. So it'll be interesting to see over the next day or two if Bitcoin gets a pump in value. And I've been kind of taking a little step back from like insanely monitoring the Bitcoin price, but if I'm not mistaken, I think when I checked this morning we were like over 15,500. So maybe we are starting to see some money come back into Bitcoin. This market is totally unpredictable, so part of me wants to say that if we start climbing back to $17,000, $18,000, $19,000, I may sell a little bit of Bitcoin and take some money off the table, only because I'm kind of kicking myself for having been at 19.5 and literally sitting there watching it and being greedy and being like, no, I'm gonna wait for it to go to 25,000 before I sell. Like if we get back up to 17.5, 18, 19, I'm gonna seriously look at selling a little bit of Bitcoin, and if it tanks again, you know, I won't be shy to buy back in. But with the current state of Bitcoin and how it is, I don't know that we can really justify prices over $20,000. Also, be careful getting into the altcoin, guys. I think we're in kind of an altcoin bubble right now. A lot of these altcoins are pure garbage. I know John McAfee is tweeting a coin of the day every day, and people are like rushing in and buying them. And if you want to play that pump game, and if you want to jump in as soon as he announces the coin and then sell it an hour or two later after people have run it up 40%, 50%, 150%, you know, go ahead and do it. You may want to do that, but keep in mind, I have a buddy who's like sold on all these coins that John McAfee tweets about, and John McAfee himself tweeted out the other day, he said, I have sold my soul to cryptocurrency companies. Anybody who's willing to give me a ridiculous amount of money, I will pump their shitcoin. He said, I would love to say that I'm going to be donating the money to charity. In reality, I'll probably spend it on hookers in Bangkok. So John McAfee has literally come out and said he's a paid shill, yet people are still all over all of these coins he mentioned. One last thing I'll mention before I cut out. I don't know if any of you guys are fans of Supoman, the YouTuber. Supoman makes videos every morning, live streams right around this time, 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and literally any coin that he mentions goes up 30 or 40% within a couple hours. So you can literally like buy whatever he says and sell it an hour or two later for 30 or 40%. And you guys could probably even hop on the John McAfee thing, although some people are kind of catching on to that. But yeah, you want to take advantage of the forks, Yobit or HitBTC. I'd probably recommend HitBTC, and then Binance is where I would move my coins over if I wanted to collect my Segwit2X tokens, that or a hardware wallet. So that's the video for today, guys. I guess that's about it. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that good jazz, and I'll catch you on the next video.